Everybody, this is 1,491 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. On Fort Bliss, right there in borderland in El Paso, Texas, right on the border where all of these unaccompanied children, think about that, unaccompanied children, um, 291,000 in just a couple years of unaccompanied children, and then they just go missing. What's happening to these children? This is the borderland. This is where our son was stationed. This is where he said things were very, very bad. They were very bad. And he became a whistleblower. He was talking to FBI Houston. He was talking to CID. He was talking to Washington, D.C. He was absolutely in communication with those, and he was in communication with the IG. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday, and um, he even was in communication with 911 and the Child Protective Services, which is in direct communication with Ann Ogle of Children, Child Youth Services. Um, yeah, let me make sure that I'm on. Everything's okay. Child Youth Services, Child Youth Services. Okay, let's move over a little bit. Yeah, let me make sure that I'm on. Everything's okay. Okay. So thanks for coming on. And we, well, lots of things are happening. We see that Trump is getting some added support. That's important for us because right now he is the best ally to find Richard Halliday, because he absolutely understands retaliation, unjust retaliation. If you look at the amount of support that a candidate is getting, you don't have to name any names, but you look at the amount of support that a candidate is getting, that is absurd support when you just um, had a coup, right? It was really a coup, the best definition of a coup. And you're getting all of this support, and you didn't even, couldn't even get through a primary. Just what, a little over a month ago, everyone is saying how terrible you are, and yet you get all of this support. And then you have another candidate that is just unjustly attacked over and over and over again and lied about. And we know that. We know that because of the Walmart mass shooting. We know that President Trump was absolutely lied about in the Walmart mass shooting by Ernest Christopher Grant. Absolutely by the media. By the media promulgating a hateful narrative and associating it with uh, with with President Trump's campaign. It was absolutely election interference. Absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind, 100%, 110% after looking at this over and over and over again, because the Walmart mass shooting is connected to our son's case. It's the same people, Bliss Avenue. It's Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who's absolutely, totally connected to Leilani Hart. Um, Sorry, we've been talking a lot today. We have been in discussions. So much is going on in El Paso. So much is going on with Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is the usurper district attorney there in El Paso, and he seems to be not doing um, too well in his position. And good, good. He needs to be arrested. He needs to be arrested because he is obstructing justice in El Paso. He is not qualified. He tampered with official documents. He is up to no good. What he did to Yvonne Rosales is just absolutely, abs- I mean, criminal, absolutely criminal. And so, this is plead, my plead to Yvonne Rosales. Please come back. Please come back. Please investigate El Paso Community Foundation. Please come back and investigate Richard's case and hold accountable, prosecute Richard's case. Prosecute. Let's put everything on the table about Leilani Hart, her long criminal history. I mean, she was convicted before Richard ever was born, and she's never stopped. She just has a long history with what one of her victims called the Samoan mob, um, and she has a lot of connections that are not too nice, not too a lot of criminal connections, and one of those is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her son. Um, well, we know that she targeted our son's case, and why would she do that? And we know that her family member is Danae Katzen. And, so Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Danae Katzen, um, Bob Moore must be in a powwow with them, right? A little powwow because he uses them as unreliable sources, right? Uh, well, it's not just Bob Moore. I should say KTSM and FitFam El Paso LLC. Then, before, then, um, a lot going on behind the FitFam El Paso. But because there's been a little pushback in responding to all of that, FitFam El Paso LLC, since we now have acquired it with the brand names, um, that there's been a little, I don't want to call it a delay, just, you know, um, with Leilani Hart's communication, that has become very, very important. And we want to thank everyone for that support and that information because that communication, wow, y'all, they threw, and yeah, Leilani Hart threw Bob Moore under the bus. And I think it was, and she just threw him under the bus. So the powwow has no peace pipe, right? It has no peace pipe. Um, Leilani Hart has no peace. There's no peace pipe with Leilani Hart. She throws people under the bus. She threw James, her ex-husband, under the bus in this communication too. And then she exposes quite a bit. So even in the crisis of lies, the crisis of projection, there's a lot of good information in there, a lot being exposed, and also a betrayal, a real betrayal. But what do you expect from Leilani Hart? She's a convicted criminal. She is the prime suspect in the murder and disappearance of our son Richard Halliday, a whistleblower that wasn't about to participate with her Vanity Fair, right? Um, and, if you've ever read Pilgrim's Progress, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, so it's very clear that we had to, and still are, go through it with a fine tooth comb um, and decide on what agencies needed to be um, warned and give this to, report this to, and just it's been a lot of research, because we're our own investigators. We are our own media. We are our own, it's like we've had to become our own law firm. We've had to become our own law firm and realize that if you really want to fight for justice, and this is where America is really beautiful and wonderful, is that we have the right to seek justice for our son. We have the right. We have the right to speak up and become our own media. We have the right to become our own law firm, right? Not a licensed law firm, just to go through the law. The law books are open to us. We can learn them. We don't have to have a law degree to learn them and read them and understand them. Um, we can do that, and we have the right to open records, to know what our government is doing with our money, and what we've asked for them to do. If whatever their agency is, we want to know. We have the right to be those that do oversight. And it really, when the declaration of death um, was given to us, which was the the United States government admitting that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. Okay, and there's no body. There's no, where's the remains, and that is huge, right? And this is where Bob Moore doesn't have his head screwed on right, because his fake story depends on um, remains being there. Remains being there. That's what it depends on. And so he is absolutely, his head is not screwed on right. And of course, his head's not screwed on right because he's using confirmed convicted criminal, and just up to no good Leilani Hart as a reliable source. And now she threw him under the bus. Threw him under the bus because she's not a reliable source, and neither is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and neither is Danae Katzen. They're criminals. And it has to do with a lot of fraud. It has to do with absolute criminal trafficking. And see, the thing is, when you have criminal trafficking, then you have to have security for your crime. So you have a lot of weapons trafficking and a lot of weapons crimes. You have guns involved, right? And you have guns involved, and when you have guns involved and you have crime involved, you have drugs involved. And of course, we know this is child trafficking, human trafficking, it's sexual trafficking. So, of course, you have the drug trafficking and the guns trafficking and the ammunition trafficking. Um, and it gets very, very ugly because one thing leads to the other. And you have to, if you're trying to make money off of it, then you have to launder the money, right? You have to, where are you going to put, you have to have warehouses, you have to have banks, you have to launder, warehouses are very, very important to hide whatever that you're trafficking, and stash it, and that's why these, in Richard's case, the storage, these tactical move storage units, um, have been, they're part of the Afghanistan village too. These training villages that they have on Fort Bliss, they're made up of these these storage units, these tactical move storage units, because they are made to be mobile. And, you know, which is makes it easy for the traffickers. And we know that there's a lot of fraud with the equipment and with weapons and the ammunition, especially the ammunition. And that's why what um, our whistleblowers have said is so serious, because they've absolutely confirmed that there's fraud going on. And then to add insult to injury, to have fraud with the insurance, right? With the insurance and the disability, you know, we it seems to us that there are people on disability that got there fraudulently. They were coached, and Leilani Hart, um, you know, in her many confessions, in many documents, she even makes allegations that James Hart would coach soldiers on how to get extra disability and all of that, and that he would abuse his power. And as a Pablo, as a Veterans Affairs disability, sits on the board for disability benefits, would abuse his power in that, abuse his situation, and tamper and for financial gain, misuse the confidential information and files from the most vulnerable of our soldiers, right? Most vulnerable. Not be a good mentor at all. Not be loyal to the United States. Um, that's what that's her allegations. Those aren't my allegations. Those are Leilani Hart's. And and we know, like we've caught Dallas Hart lying, because he told me he didn't even know who Travis was, like Tavita Nusa. He didn't even know, where they are so involved with that family. Okay, they are really involved. They are very involved. They know that family very, very well. And so I think, I know that even her latest confession throws Dallas Hart under the bus. She throws her own son under the bus, because she confirms that they know um, each other very, very well, right? So it really is you have to read it over and over, because it is very crazy and it's very evil. It's very, very dark, and it's a lies in crisis. I mean, she is just whew, crisis mode. Uh, there's definitely some mental issues going on there, and like she's spooked, right? Like she's spooked, and she's just can't even think right. And I'm thinking, I wonder, because I think what brought this on was that, I was praying that Richard would be haunting her, haunting them. And I don't know if that brought this on, or the insurance fraud that is all starting to come out, and us looking into, Ann Ogle, and of course Thomas Kane. So Ann Ogle is Child Youth Services for Fort Bliss, and Thomas Kane was Director of Emergency Services, and looking more into their LLCs, because they were in business together. And that could be a huge, huge conflict of interest with the jobs that they have. especially if it was security and child um, um, focused LLCs, which that's that's what it looks like. That's so there seems to be some real problems here, and you real a lot of fraud, a lot of fraud for financial gain, and we don't know if that's what triggered this response, but we're very grateful for it, and it's going to help. Well, it already is helping us uh, to break this case so that those that are, like there's so many that are implicated, and I don't even know if they have their head screwed on right. Because who in their right mind would want to be implicated in a capital murder case that's premeditated? They're facing the death penalty. They're facing the lethal injection. What are they thinking? They, it's really a mess. They're thinking that the government and that that the broken, I mean, look at what's happening day in and day out, and they're depending on their bravado, thinking, oh well, we have Nieto as the FBI and he'll cover, and Marlon Soto at the CID, he'll cover. Oh, we'll have this person. But you know what? It changes, and it just doesn't happen, and people look out for their own interests, and they come forward because they see the writing on the wall, and the truth always comes out and justice always prevails. And you might not think justice always prevails, but there absolutely, we that's where that faith comes in, where we don't understand why bad things happen, right? We don't understand. There was a Bible study, I talked to my friend about it today, and it was a one of the founding ministers in the United States. I think he was at Princeton or Harvard when they were seminaries. Both of them, those universities started out as a seminary. That's why they're called universities. Okay. The word university is because all things were created and are under the law of God. It's uni. It's not multiverse. It's a universe. So all of those are under the Ten Commandments, are all under the every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, the sacraments and creation. So your learning is under God. And that's why we have our Pledge of Allegiance under God. And it's a universe. And so when the universities were seminaries, um, beginning, there was a minister, and this Bible study was quite a long time ago, and it just kind of popped in my mind today. So, um, but the question that he preached about and asked, and what was the focus and topic of our Bible study was, are you willing to be damned for the glory of God? That was the question. That was the discussion, that question. Are you willing to be damned for the glory of God? And, that is an amazing question, because in today's world, we're told that we have to treat ourselves, we have to be good to ourselves first. First, we have to be good to ourselves before we can be good to others, and all of that. But the Bible says seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all other things shall be given unto you, right? And for seeking out the kingdom of God, matter of fact, I have a little plaque here: come close to God and he will come close to you, right? That's James 4:8. And the whole lesson is quite the opposite of what our culture is telling us, and that is we have to be selfless servants. We have to die to ourselves, our will, our want, our desires, and do what is right, what is good. We have to be willing to be damned. We have to damn ourselves. We have to say, no, um, we need to fight for justice. We can't, do this and do that and do what we want. We have to restrain ourselves. We have to really turn our backs on ourselves, um, and fight for the glory of God. That's, and the kingdom of God, right? And establish justice on earth. That was the whole kind of conversation that we were having today is, in order to really feel joy, in order to really be happy, you really have to put yourself aside and give of yourself, to the glory of God. Not I'm not saying to others to give in. I'm not giving in to these criminals. I'm not giving in to them. No way. But I'll give in to God, right? I'll give in to his righteousness. And yeah, that's where the humility needs to be, but not to a convicted criminal that is in possession of child pornography and fails to report child sexual assault in her bedroom and incest in her family, and then is absolutely connected to the murder and disappearance of our son. Absolutely. And this communication, this latest communication, really confirms it. It's, because what is their fixation to this case day in and day out, right? If nothing was going on, if everything was like they say, what is their fixation? And why do they not want to put out the proper narrative? Why do they want to control and manipulate and falsify, give people a false history of who Richard is, how he got to El Paso, what he was reporting, his association with Park University, his association with CID, his record of being the distinguished undergraduate in both the basic training cycle and his AIT, his advanced individual training, and clipping out. He already had clipped out when he was 15 and, fastest runner in his unit. Why was that not the esprit de corps of the media? If we were just looking for him. No, they were covering up the murder because Richard was never missing. Okay, it was always a cover up of the murder. He was never missing. Now his remains are missing. Or they have them. I think they have them. I don't know if they have all of them because Thomas Kane said he was a good meal for the coyotes. And, Jaime Corona got all pale. At least he had some humanity. Because Leilani Hart is like cold-blooded. She is absolutely cold-blooded. And she will do anything and ruin whoever and push whoever under the bus for to elevate herself above the law so that she doesn't have to face the death penalty. That's what's going on here. So there's no humility there. There's no selfless service there. There is no Medal of Honor ethos there. And Dallas Hart is her son. Okay. Um, and we've learned a lot about Dallas Hart because we have more and more veterans coming forward, more and more that are, confirming that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader, that Dallas Hart um, was confused sexually, that Dallas Hart had incidences, and I don't think I can say more, um, but that the troubled youth is with Dallas Hart. Richard was squeaky, shiny, sparkling clean, beautiful. And, you know, um, so it was all projection. And they really tried to muddy the water around Richard. They really just, and you see it today, if this is possible with our election, that's so broad, it's so out there, right? We can see it so clearly what they're doing. Then, of course, they did it with Richard. That's just like standard operating procedure to these criminals. So the next is we absolutely believe that there was fraud um, committed in the misuse of Richard's files. We know that uh, this criminal group doesn't stop at impersonation. We know that Richard's Social Security was known and used after he was murdered. Um, so, what are they, what are they cashing in on? Is it the insurance? Is it the Social Security numbers? Is it benefits, disability benefits? Is it all of it? And so these are um, information that we're getting in that, and even in this crisis of lies, there has to be a foundation. And it absolutely talks about taking advantage of the system with the full disability and over again, full disability, full disability. It also confirms that the involvement in the murder of Richard, um, the absolute concern to hide the fact that Dallas Hart is Richard's platoon leader. But we already have that on record. I wish I could play it for you. We already have multiple witnesses. That's why we're even saying it. It's not because CID came out and FBI came out and said, oh, yeah, Dallas Hart was the platoon leader. No, it was other brave individuals. So, and the Army, they could, it's, they go, oh, uh, Leilani, uh, Dallas was never the platoon leader for Richard. Um, but where's the platoon leader? The platoon leader is Dallas Hart. Otherwise, they would present a platoon leader to us and we would be able to talk with them. But no, um, And even the actions of First Sergeant Ruggiero and his very close relationship to Dallas Hart and the participation with them together in so many other things, but in this criminal group absolutely corroborates their closeness working as platoon leader and first sergeant in the same unit. So, it there's a lot of projection, and we are just very grateful to have it. Thank you so much, and we are going to make the most of it. We are not going to waste one little letter in that confession, that communication. Not one little letter. We are going through it. We're having it analyzed over and over by multiple individuals. And, you know, it, there's just a lot, there's just a lot there. And we've already, I think it's like we've been contacted by law enforcement. We've already submitted, I don't know, seven. That's such a good number. I like the number seven. Um, Notifications. Um, very. I think it's been more. I think it's been more. I should say 12, right, or 10. Um, but there's been quite a few, and we. They were hard work. These letters were really hard work. We had to absolutely go through that madness, that evil madness, and find what the basis of what Leilani Hart was trying to communicate. And what she was trying to communicate is that she was weaponizing, this is what she was trying to communicate, that she was weaponizing the FBI against us. Of course, she's saying all kinds of other stuff, but she's saying, I have access to confidential files. I have the power to manipulate the CID and the FBI. Um, and I have weaponized the CID and the FBI against the family and the investigation of Richard. And that's really shocking because you're like, okay, wait a minute. In all of that madness and all of that lies of crisis, um, that's what was there. And you're like, yes. And so you have to um, explain that, explain the findings, what this meant, because there are things in that, and this is what we were trying to tell Bob Moore with the Board of Inquiry. There are so many experiences and things and connections and between people and individuals and places and why they project, why they say they do, why they attack the way they do, why and we have to explain that for them to say, oh, uh-huh, I see what's going on here. And it's very clear that she's in crisis mode, that she had some help of someone else that's in crisis mode, um, and that she was admitting to weaponize the agencies against us, and she also then just totally discredits Bob Moore and, of course, uh, James Hart. And there's more. And so as we go through it again, because every time you look at it, you have to pick up a different magnifying glass, right? This is a magnifying glass of this, and this is a magnifying glass to find this. And you just have to, get a good night's sleep and then go through it. And decipher what is going on and then turn it in, because I really believe that this case is going to be broken because of evidence like this. I really believe that. So thank you from the bottom of our heart. It's going to be a sentence, something little, or maybe some person will be triggered that says, I've had enough. I can't keep up this lie any longer, and tells the truth. So we really thank you so much. Anicia, thank you for your prayers and your love. Patty Joe, thank you so much for your prayers. And we're, doing this day in and day out, because when a military service member is treated the way Richard was treated, for blowing the whistle to help children being trafficked, which is very clear now, 291,000 children trafficked over that border that were unaccompanied. You know, I think of children being unaccompanied, and it just gives me the shivers. And even up to 17 years old, right? Because you know they are counted as minors, throughout 17, and it just gives me the shiver. What are these people doing around the world? Like, just get out of here, kid. Just get out of here. Go find your way. And then how did they get across? Right? And then they go missing, and nobody knows where they're going. And then you connect dots with all these people that are absolutely up to no good and absolutely involved with um, criminal trafficking. And that's what Richard was reporting. That's why Ann Ogle is in real trouble, because she was child and youth services. And we have it confirmed from Thomas Kane, right, that he and Ann Ogle was saying, they were very concerned about what was going on at the emergency intake center. Very concerned. And I don't want to make them seem benevolent or anything, because they are not. They were absolutely trying to milk it for everything they could get. Um, but their conscience just kind of split for a few seconds, a few times, and they spoke the truth. And so they are suspects. They're in big trouble, because as director of emergency services, um, and all the resources that we give them at El Paso, Fort Bliss should be the safest place on earth. And look what happened to Richard. He was so retaliated for reporting, the criminal trafficking. And it was so bad, and they made him so vulnerable, because they took 3 ranks away from him. And they made him so vulnerable to be bullied and everything, and to be manipulated, that we know he was forcibly removed from the barracks. And we think it was under the guise, because you have to tell the other soldiers what's going on, of an arrest. So it was a lot of propaganda. It was a big setup in January. And of course, he was dismissed, but they really went after him. And then when he just stayed squeaky clean, and that case got dismissed, and Yvonne Rosales got voted in, they freaked out, and he was murdered. Because what was Clem Coward, the Major General, going to do? Apologize? Give him back his rank? What was he going to do when the judge dismissed, Judge Alma Trejo what were they going to do? So they should have done the right thing, but they didn't. And now, 4 years later, they're facing the death penalty. And this is not about forgiveness and not forgiveness and all of that. This is about righteousness. And you cannot have a declaration of death where they're saying Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. No, no remains given to us, and expect that to be okay. Expect that to be okay. No, it's not okay. There needs to be accountability. Yes, investigation after investigation after investigation, but there needs to be accountability. These people need to be that harassed us, that intimidated us, that threatened us, that impersonated us in order to intercept information, to twist the narrative, to frame the narrative. They need to be held accountable. So we really are grateful, and they know that we feel this way, and so they know they're facing um, huge legal challenges and charges. And right now, Bill Hicks is being shaken up. I don't even. The word that we're getting is that he's not really doing his job right now. That's the word we're getting. So because he's a usurper, you see, we've been saying it, and we would not say it if it wasn't absolutely confirmed with all of our documents from the open records requests. It was shocking for us to find out that someone we depend on very much to give us justice in our son's case is unqualified, is a trespasser, is a usurper, and is just pretending and botching the whole criminal justice system in El Paso. And that, so we're really making uh, ourselves known with that, with Bill Hicks. And I, just pray that it won't take much longer and he will be in handcuffs. And then, of course, we have the musical side of things. We have the political playing of musical chairs, right? And it's a lot of nepotism. And this is what brought a unqualified chief medical examiner into power that is illegal. And we believe that would be, if you're doing a criminal network, you have to, if you're doing insurance fraud, you have to have the death certificates, and that requires a chief medical examiner. If we want to get the death certificate for Richard, we have the declaration of death, but we don't have the death certificate. If we want to get that, I mean, the declaration of death, they tell us is just as good. But we would still, for the certificate, we would have to go to Mario Raskin Ortiz. So, can you believe it? Yeah. Oh, could you please give me a death certificate for my son? You unqualified, illegal chief medical examiner making almost $450,000 a year plus, you know? Yeah. And it's not about so much the money, it's just he's illegal, he's unqualified, and it was Veronica Escobar as the county judge that approved him. Approved that he could come. Didn't say a word. She's up to no good. And of course, Joanne Bernal, the county attorney. So, and she resigned. She resigned. So we're moving forward, and thank you so much for your prayers. And we will be back tomorrow. Please share, and thank you so much. God bless you. Bye bye.